Mr. Ramaswamy.
I was born in 1985, and
Why
I
is this
grew
so
up
low?
into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much
low, this video.
that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight. Thank you.
I'm gonna come. Holy shit. What an inspiring speech,
An
bro.
entrepreneur.
Shut up. I didn't ask you.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
This guy's wild. My jaw hurts so bad from that. Oh. I mean, yeah, man. That's exactly if I was gonna. That's how I'd fucking virtue signal. God is real. I mean, listen. If you love God, I love. That's love is love. I love it. It's a beautiful thing. But also, God, there's no proof that God's real. And the reason I say that is because number 2 is there are 2 genders. And like I think God is real, and I also think that there are more than 2 genders. And you want to know what? Here's the bottom fucking line. Okay? Here's the bottom line when it comes to this argument. I want to be explicitly clear, okay? When it comes to God, you have a feeling that God exists. It makes you feel good. It gives you a sense of euphoria. It makes you feel proud. It makes you feel connected to a group of other people who believe that there is a God. I think it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, as long as it's being used properly to promote love. Which I think in American Christianity, not so much. I saw a quick thing I'm going to talk about on my podcast with my wife, Robin Dan channel, in the description. We're going to talk about the next thing about how the Pope seemingly condemned American Christians. Because it's become too hateful. And he talked about how LGBTQ people should be invited into the church. And in this country, we use the church to hurt, LGBTQ members. But the reality is God is an internalized feeling you cannot prove. There's no proof that God exists. There is a power. There's a positive power to the existence of God, but there's no proof it exists. It's an internal idea, and that is it. Same thing with like gender. It is an internal idea you cannot prove, right? Sex is very binary. Well, it's bimodal technically. I'm not going to get into that. It's an objective thing. We can see it. Gender is something that's more abstract. It's more philosophical in a somewhat similar way that religion is. It is an internalized feeling that makes you feel euphoric, right? And if it's denied from you to express your gender, you feel dysphoria. In the same way, I'm sure that there are religious people who, when they are denied their faith in God, feel another sense of dysphoria. That's it. I don't have to personally get it. But at the end of the day, like there's no real difference. You can't prove God exists. You can't prove gender exists. But we have people. You can't prove sex. You've never had it. Exactly. That's a good point. But you have a group of people who believe that God is real. They have an internal experience, and we as a society say, I respect that. You do you. We have a group of people who are saying that their gender identity exists. We can't prove that, but we respect them and say, okay, that's we get it. That's valid. We respect that. That's how I come at it from. But these two things are as logical as the other. And frankly, trans people are much more logical. I mean, there's no higher power that's watching you do everything and, judging you in this limited life for the rest of eternity, either eternal hell or eternal salvation. There's more logic in trans people, exponentially more. But either way, I respect it. And so that's why I feel like people are so just obsessed with it. And the fact that it's number 2 is gender. Why is this such a hot button issue for conservatives? Get a fucking platform. Right? Yeah, religion should be spiritual, not scientific. I think that religion I think that religion and gender play a similar role in people's idea. In their mind. I think it gives them a sense of feeling good about themselves, a sense of identity, a sense of community, because there's an LGBTQ community. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that there's a similarity there. And there's nothing wrong with that, unless you use it to be hateful, which religious people do a lot. Number 3, human flourishing requires fossil fuels. Sure, but we should shift away because we're damaging the world. I mean, like, that's just the reality. We should try to seek alternatives and save as much fossil fuels for, like, military vehicles. Reverse racism is racism. I agree with this 100%. You know, on individual level, like, just shut up. Stop justifying racism against white people. Again, I've said this every time. I've never heard somebody say, like, you can't be racist to white people, which is what this is referring to, that wasn't doing it to try to be hateful to white people. I've never heard anybody, every time it's like, you can't be racist to white people, and they call me a mayo monkey. It's like, bro, I don't even like mayonnaise. You know? Call me like the white Gatorade guy. I like white Gatorade. It's not too bad. Well, call me like cream cheese man. I like cream cheese too. Incredible stuff. I love cream cheese. Oh, it's so good. It's to a fault. I like it to a fault. Okay. But yeah, so that's what it is. An open border is no border. I agree with that. The problem with this open border is no border thing is, again, it doesn't exist. The reason that I say it doesn't exist is because when they say this, they're trying to say these Democrats, they want an open border. These Democrats want an open border. And then meanwhile, you find out that Mexico agreed to pay the United States $1.5 billion fucking dollars for border security, for smart border technology. Joe Biden did what Donald Trump said he would do, except better. A fucking physical wall was drastically more money than they said it would be. They massively undercut. I think the estimates were upwards of like $100 billion, and it wasn't going to be effective. Smart border technology, using technology to actually stop people from crossing the border, is better. Biden clearly has a priority for the border security, despite the fact that no Democrat, like none of like the annoying little 13-year-old Democrats that are like, oh my god, blah, 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 you know, fucking communism is based. Bullshit. There isn't a loud screeching. He's just like, yeah, let's do some border shit. Because it's the right thing to do. He's not jerking it off. You know, but it just exists. This motherfucker did it. So when you say that an open border is no border, you're trying to make it seem like the Democrats don't agree with that. Fucking Joe Biden. Oh, he got Mexico to pay for it, bro. He did it. Why conservatives aren't talking about this? This is insane. You guys are fucking nuts. Parents determine the education of their children. This is like more complicated because we all vote to an extent about education. Parents should absolutely have a say in education, but at the end of the day, parents don't get the end all be all say for what's going on in society. There is a buy into society. There are certain things that need to be taught. This is the same rhetoric that was going on when we wanted to teach fucking creationism over evolution, even though evolution is a fact. The theory of evolution, to my understanding, is the theory of how we evolved, not that we evolved. Okay? There are some things that we need to learn as a society. We should all have a social say, but at the end of the day, you can't even do your 4th grader's fucking math homework. I can't either, bro, because I forgot. You don't even know what the fuck's going on either. Parents should have a right to have a conversation, to talk about what they do and don't necessarily want to see, but there are some things that need to be taught. And educators are generally going to know best. And the broad stroke thing of saying parents determine the education of their children, it's really meant to say, it's meant to be like anti-fucking education and anti-science, because it's not everyone's parent knows what's best for their kids when it comes to education. There's a reason we have an incredibly robust infrastructure of educational protocols in place. Should parents be able to shift those? 1,000 fucking %. They should have a say on shifting that. But at the end of the day, they don't have the end all be all say on everything. Right? This is the same thing where we teach abstinence sexual health education because of religious conservatives instead of like actual comprehensive age appropriate sexual health education for kids that teaches them about their bodies so they're not scared, that teaches them about consent, that teaches them about the bodies of other people. Right? Like, there's no reason that boys should be educated differently from girls when it comes to this shit. Boys should learn periods, girls should learn ball sacks, whatever. Because they're gonna have fucking kids one day, and they should know the anatomy of their kid to help them. It's so basic. I remember when I was a kid, I did my thing the first time. I was young. I was a preteen. I was scared after I finished because I didn't know what happened to my body. We need to have these conversations for kids. All right? You can teach young people, teenagers, comprehensive, age-appropriate sexual health education so they can understand themselves and their bodies in a way that is not sexualized. But it seems like people, especially conservatives, like they're still the kid in class that goes, penis. I remember that. We were in class. We heard the word penis. We couldn't fucking help ourselves. Because we're immature. We're sitting there. We're laughing. And it's like conservatives like fucking melt down. There's this book here. It's for fucking 14-year-olds. And it tells kids that penises get erect. That's inappropriate. Why? It's just teaching you kids education on their bodies. That's all it is. That's literally like the idea of school is to prep you for being an adult. Of course, age appropriate. Absolutely. But it's like, this is what we're talking about. You know, when you got in fucking Florida, going in and investigating a teacher who played a fucking Disney movie because there's a gay character in it, that's insane. You know how much that's money? It costs resources for that educational department to have to investigate this shit. That's the problem. It really is. It is. Like, it costs. That's why people are against like the "don't say gay" thing. It's because parents can like sue indiscriminately, which just robs resources from the shitty education standards in Florida. Anyways, fucking dog shit. They need that money for things. I don't like for what? I don't know. You know, maybe they need it for their education, but instead it's going to be focused a lot of that on like, oh, we're getting sued. We have to spend money on this. It's a destructive protocol. That's what it comes down to. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. I mean, I agree. I think the nuclear family is great. That's fine. Cool. I think the nuclear family is great. If you want to be like poly, listen. Let's just say this. I think that we attack gay and trans people too much. They're living their lives. I think that maybe there's nothing wrong with... Why? I mean... I'm not saying we should hate poly people. I've been there. I've experimented. But what the? Is it cringe? We need more cringe alerts on polyamorous people. That's all I'm saying. Capitalism lifts people up from poverty. Here's the reality. Capitalism is awesome when it works well, but it's not working well. Realistically speaking, we live in a new age of rapidly evolving technology that is displacing jobs and driving down wages. There's not a single job that you can think of that technology hasn't had an impact on. Is it beneficial in some ways? 1000%. It makes things cheaper. Why does it make things cheaper? Because people lose their jobs. Like 80% of fucking factory workers are getting laid off. You have truck drivers, GPSs. You think it's so small. A GPS is making it more accessible to be a truck driver, justifying lower wages. You have McDonald's that are trying to be completely automated. You have Walmarts that are getting rid of their cashiers and now have like the self-servicing. That's like one person can now watch like the job of 7 people. And they're pocketing that money. We need to have a conversation about something that's more socialist, more wealth redistribution. I'm a big UBI guy. We've been doing socialism forever. Big businesses, big banks can make risky investments, lose their fucking money, and then we have to pay for it as a society, or else they get or else their fucking institution or banks crumble, and we just society collapses. And Obama that's what happened in the 2008 stock market crash. To be very shorthanded with it. Obama put in protocols to not let them do that. Trump, of course, lifted those. So fuck us again, right? Right? But that's the reality. That's fucking corporate socialism. So let's not pretend that we're so fucking socialist based. On top of that, look up donor states. Like the top 10 states are donor states in the United States are like all blue, except for maybe one. But the top 4 are New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California. What is a donor state? A donor state is a state that gives more money to federal taxes than they get back in federal grants, right? Like we're at like 75% of the dollar we're getting back. Florida gets like I think it's like $30 billion more than they fucking give in taxes. That's socialism. That's wealth redistribution. Like, I'm gonna go to Florida. The taxes are cheaper. Yeah, because I'm paying for your shit, asshole. My fucking taxes are paying for your shit. So stop pretending that your state is like flourishing because of anti-socialism. It's lower taxes. Your state's flourishing because other states are subsidizing your fucking bad decisions. It's just the reality. They go, we're in a surplus this year. You're not. If you weren't given this socialism, it wouldn't happen. If you weren't given this wealth redistribution, it's happening everywhere. You just don't see it. It's like a fucking, like, you just, you're closing your eyes. You're like an ostrich. You're putting it under. These things exist. We need wealth redistribution. It's just a fact. And I'm not saying take it away from Florida. I'm saying this is a positive thing. It needs to be done well. But this capitalism is cool as long as there's a healthy amount of social programs involved. We know welfare got us out of the Great Depression. We know it got us out of the Great Recession. We know it's a positive thing if done right. Now, again, I like UBI because part of it is a reformation of the current welfare system, which I think is too conditional for some people, and it makes it so they're not really able to get out of their dependence on that welfare and get a real job. That's why I'm a UBI guy. I'm not going into the specifics of it, but still, this is something that people really need to talk about because it's like a real fucking thing. There are 3 branches of the U.S. government, not 4. I don't know what that means. Are they saying the FBI is a branch? I don't even know what that means. I can't even tell you what that's calling to. Maybe I'm just a big, stupid, ugly idiot. I mean, that's certainly true, regardless of whether I know what this means or not. I don't know what the 4th is. What is he referring to? The media? I don't get it. The U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantee. What is it? Wow, Garer of American freedom or freedoms of history. I like the Constitution. My favorite is separation of church and state.
Guarantor.
Guarantor. I knew that word. The 4th branch is the administrative branch, aka the FBI, IRS, CDC, etc. Is that what he's referring to? Okay. Listen, I like the Constitution. I think that that's really cool. Here's what I think also. Separation of church and state is the thing for a reason. Okay. And I think that it needs to be really enforced because a lot of the conservative mentality comes from a very toxic worshiping of religion in a way that even the Pope has said, that's not good. The Pope, that's the religion guy. That's the guy God talks through most. That's my understanding. Even he's like, you guys in America are fucking crazy. And so we need to have this conversation because that's why we reject trans and gay people in society in general. It's a big aspect of it, and it pushes people away from religion. I'll say a big reason people aren't as religious anymore is because they don't like the hatred of gay and trans people. They're like, fuck this shit. Like, there's no way. It's ruining people's faith in God. You know, especially with a book with like 2,000 or 3,000 different versions or translations. I mean, Jesus Christ. At this point, we have to, I think, like, that God must be playing a prank on you. That must be the real test. Hey, guys, I'm going to make a book full of contradictions, and I'm going to have like 3,000 different versions and translations. They got to figure out that that people manipulated this book. That's the true test, religious people. Okay? The number one thing in the book should really just be, I love. Love is supposed to be what the Bible's about. I think it should be, at least. Right? But there has to be a separation of like church and state. Listen, I don't know how constitutional conservatives are. There was a huge push last year where they were trying to overturn gay marriage, right? Separation of church and state. There's no reason to not allow gay marriage. It's just a fact. This is a real thing. To be absolutely honest with you, it seems like there is a level. I mean, when Donald Trump lost the election fair and square and like was talking about how he was going to refuse to leave office, talking about how he wanted to censor the fucking media because they were criticizing him, talking about how like basically riling people up to like fucking storm the Capitol, it makes me question, like, are you really like for a democratic republic, or are you for a fucking insane, I don't know, maybe some people would call that fascism. It's fucking psychotic. All right. You know, and on top of that, I don't know, man. It feels like we're just not where we need to be. Personally, I think that the Conservative Party is currently fucking lost. When Donald Trump got elected, I remember hearing lots of news stories and a lot of conservatives leaving office. A lot of local conservatives, because the Republican Party shifted drastically from what it used to be. What it's supposed to be is about fiscal responsibility and fiscal spending patterns and whatnot, and less government involvement. And now it's become like a fucking psychopath, insane fucking bullshit. So yeah. It seems like we need a little bit of a new conservative thing. I personally think a UBI is a conservative. I think it's a conservative fucking idea. It's a future conservative idea. A UBI is giving people money per month. That's it. It's in place of welfare programs as well as other programs. I think it's the most free way that you can engage in wealth redistribution, where you're not micromanaging things. It cuts down on like, I think it's like 100 different welfare institutions down to a simple UBI. Milton Friedman, the fucking, like, was a big UBI, right? Milton Friedman? Was that his name? The conservative guy was a big UBI guy. It's a conservative solution. These are the solutions conservatives should be talking about. right? And you know what I mean? But we're not seeing the conservative solution to wealth redistribution. They're like, cut taxes. It's a nice idea. The reality is it just helps the top more than the bottom. We need more taxes and better distribution. That's all of that. They don't give a fuck about healthcare, despite the fact that there's like 10 times the price for like everything. You know, insulin shouldn't be as expensive as it is. Different medication should, the hospital shouldn't, there isn't, but there's no conservative like real solution to that as well. There's no conversation about gun laws, which is fucking insane to me. You talk about how you want to protect children from fucking gay people, you call them groomers. Number one, like cause of death for like kids 1 to 19 is fucking guns. If you really cared about kids, if you're really pro-life, you'd be talking about guns, you'd be talking about healthcare, you'd be talking about all these different things that actually keep people alive. But instead, it's just like, it feels like this constant, just big, like, I don't know, idiot festival. Like, how many dumb fucking virtue signaling shit, like, how many times can we say God is cool? That seems to be the entire fucking conservative party right now. God is cool, gays are bad, Donald Trump is fucking based. That's what half of this is. God is real. That's, God is real. Is God is cool, so is the nuclear family. It's just a callback to God. Capitalism is based, even though it's fucking super oppressive sometimes. It just seems to be fucking lazy as shit. Global warming doesn't exist. It's just weird. Like, how go breathe in your car exhaust. I don't get it. Like, they have to be like, holy fuck, this is probably toxic. Holy shit, you got to think that that's toxic. It's like you're anti-science. It's just crazy, dude. I don't know, man. Listen, I understand a lot of people like this Vivek, whatever. I can't say his name. I'm not even going to pretend. But he's young and he's charismatic, but it's all dog shit. And if you guys vote conservative again, you're going to get another we're going to get Biden again. Which, by the way, he's not doing that bad. He got Mexico to pay for the fucking wall for border technology. So, there's my rant.
R34P3R super chatted $10. Myron's hair went from balding to budding. He's the new Benjamin Button.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm done with the meme now.
Well, I appreciate
I'm glad
that.
I could make a small meme. Love you, Papa.
Thank you. I love you too. Is this another one? Who is this guy and can he beat Trump? Is this another video?
This video was brought to you by NordVPN. As the 2024 election nears, politicos have started turning their attention to the upcoming Republican primary. Now, polling suggests that former President Donald Trump holds a commanding 40% lead over his opponents.
Holy shit. I swear to God, if it was Hunter Biden with the same allegations, or if it was Joe Biden, the conservatives wouldn't care at all. They would be all over it. This is crazy.
But despite Trump seemingly dominating the race, the primary has still attracted some serious interest, largely because it's got some...
Wasn't Trump like not even there, and then he got upset when they wouldn't let him speak because he wasn't there? He didn't go speak on
seriously
stage.
Controversial characters in the running, including, perhaps most notably, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy.
I remember this guy was like, oh, I came from humble beginnings, but his mom and dad are like rich.
Another bold millionaire railing against the woke left and the mainstream media. In fact, Ramaswamy is catching up with DeSantis in the polls, and a plurality of Republicans saw him as a winner in last week's debate. So in this video, we'll take a look at who Ramaswamy is, his wild policies, and whether he might actually beat Trump to the nomination. To stay in the loop and be born on August 9th to Indian immigrants, Ramaswamy spent most of his youth in Ohio, attending
Ohio, the meme.
both public and private schools. After graduating from high school in 2003 as the class
Private school, bro. He's not rich.
valedictorian, he attended Harvard University to earn his Bachelor of Arts in Biology, where he achieved high academic honors and graduated in 2007. He then enrolled in Yale Law School and earned his law degree in 2013. During this time, he also worked for hedge fund QVT Financial, where he managed the firm's biotech portfolio as a partner. He invested in numerous pharmaceutical companies, including Retrosfin.
Well, that makes sense as to why he's not going to help us regulate healthcare. He has too much of a financial interest in fucking and taking advantage of people through medication.
Infamously known for its association with Martin Scarelli, the company
Isn't this a scumbag who bought like the rights to insulin and then upcharged it by like 100 times?
CEO, who was found guilty of securities fraud, as well as using questionable company practices, such as unreasonable drug price hikes. Despite the controversy, though, these investments proved remarkably successful for Ramaswamy, and he became a multimillionaire before the age of 30. In 2014, Ramaswamy left QVT to
Wow. Well, how do you make his money? Taking advantage of sick people? Whoa, that's fucking based as shit, dude.
start his own biotech firm, Roivant Sciences, and was able to successfully raise hundreds of millions of dollars for its IPO, further ballooning Ramaswamy's wealth. After rotating through executive positions, he then left the company in 2023 to focus on his presidential campaign. So how did Ramaswamy actually end up in politics? Well, Ramaswamy apparently...
He's got a lot of money, and just like most rich men, I would be included if I was rich. They think people give a fuck about what they have to say. I think I'm not even rich. I think people give a fuck about what I have to say. I think it's a male ego thing, which, by the way, is based because we are better.
wasn't really interested in politics until Trump.
Was it EpiPens? I could have swore that it was insulin, but you might be right.
Allegedly, he didn't even vote in the 2018, 2012, or 2016 elections, but backed Donald Trump in 2020 and has made large donations to the Republican Party ever since. He also apparently...
I wonder if it's because he would benefit from Donald Trump's shit policies that inflated our fucking deficit.
Considered running for the Republican nomination in the 2022 Ohio Senate race, but ultimately decided against it. Okay. As such, he first started really making headlines in early 2022 when he launched Strive Asset Management, an investment management firm that was explicitly anti-ESG. For context, ESG, or environmental, social, and governance, is a framework used by most large investment companies to assess the environmental and social impacts of a company before deciding whether they should invest. Now, Ramaswamy apparently thinks that ESG is nonsense, both because it mixes politics and business, and because he thinks that ESG is an agenda being pushed by the woke left.
What that sounds like to me is just optics. It's saying, hey, we want to do a business. Let's see what the social atmosphere thinks of this business. In some instances, yeah, of course, it's going to like appeal to like leftists or whatever is considered socially palatable. And some of that online can be very hyperbolic. But ultimately, you want to, it's like, to me, it's just doing some kind of a focus group before you release a product. Like, yeah, again, left, like woke people can be annoying. And there definitely are companies that pander to woke people. But this isn't even like a governmental sense thing or government thing. This is just like, hey, how well will our product be received? Will we be able to get a return on our investment? It doesn't seem like a fucking woke. It just seems business smart. It's like the same people who make the decision to make fucking everything gay during Pride Month. It's a smart business decision.
Anyway, following his firm's controversial launch,
which still has a positive impact on promoting LGBTQ.
Ramaswamy then announced his run for the Republican nomination in February 2023. And since then, he's made a name for himself with his, let's say, radical policy suggestions. Per his website, he wants to use the military, drones if necessary, to secure the southern border.
That's fucking wild. Why? We don't even need that. Again, Biden got us $1.5 billion fucking dollars. Mexico paid. Secure the border, baby.
Ban addictive social media for those under 16.
That might be a little based. That one might be based.
Scrap basically every environmental regulation to make it easier for American companies to engage in fracking and burn more coal.
Well, then you're just an idiot. Like the second one, I was kind of, I'm there a little bit. There might be not necessarily be a bad idea. Social media is very addictive, and I think it rots people's brains. But to scrap I just don't really understand. I don't understand it. From, first of all the information we have points to climate change is bad and it's destroying the world. That being said, like just from like a fucking intuitive level, like you just don't understand destroying the environment not being bad, like destroying the places. Even if it didn't ruin the world, you realize that places that are around factories with like all this runoff are associated with drastically higher rates of fucking cancer, and tends to be in poor communities. Why would you cut these different like environmental regulations? It's so dumb. We should absolutely gravitate more towards more environmentally friendly policies. I'm not gonna say the businesses care, because you got places like fucking Tesla that are selling their environmental credits so other companies can burn more fossil fuels or whatever. But we should still encourage cleaner alternatives.
Ban US businesses from expanding into China.
Okay.
End civil service protections and impose term limits on bureaucrats.
I don't know what ending a civil service protection is, but I do think that it's not a bad idea to impose term limits on what is a bureaucrat? Is that like a politician? I know I'm being stupid as fuck today, but if that's imposing term limits on government officials, which it seems to be, yeah, I'm for that too. Some of these are okay.
And shut down the Department of Education, FBI, and IRS.
Bro, this is what makes me want to say bad words. This is stupid. Why to shut down the Department of Education? What the fuck? And the IRS? The IRS is the only thing that brings in money in America. We need that to fund the programs we have. You can't just cut them all like magical little babies like you want to.
He also thinks that the US should limit aid going to Ukraine, calling Zelensky a bully, and has stated that the US should reduce its military aid budget to Israel.
I just disagree. I don't know what people... Listen, I think America is the greatest country in the fucking world. I love this country, even though there are flaws. one of the things I love about this country is our willingness to protect and defend our allies. I mean, I feel like just from a man perspective, that's the most masculine fucking thing you could do is go, if our friends are in trouble, I'm showing up, baby. I'm showing up. I'm getting rowdy. I'm moshing. Right? That's just so basic. Right? And to spread our ideas too. Because we are the best. Western, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like we have the most free countries in the world that are the least oppressive. All Western countries. I'm sorry. That's the most freedom for gay people, trans people, women, everybody. All right, BIPOC people. There are problems, but so we should be protecting our allies who also spread these ideas, even if they don't spread them perfectly. And we should be helping our allies. Okay, Russia is trying to invade Ukraine. They've been starving people out to implant Russians in there and say we have a claim. They don't. It's not Ukraine's fault. It's not our fault. It's Russia's fault, and we have to fight against them. But there's another thing. Like conservatives guzzle cum from like fucking Vladimir Putin. They're like, oh my god, they also hate gay people. And meanwhile they're fucking hardcore sucking and glazing them off. Dude, get out of here with this lame bullshit. Cut fucking aid. How about we actually audit the fucking military and see what they're spending this money on? Look at like 40. It's crazy. Because the U.S. military, there's like something that came out where they spend like $40 million or $4.6 million on crab and lobster, or shellfish. I don't know. That's crazy to me. Why? There's just so many different ways that the military wastes money. I guarantee it. But I remember watching this conversation with Jon Stewart, talking to somebody who was like a representative of the military. And he's like, why can't we get an actual decent audit? And she was just being so condescending. It's this conversation here. It's from 4 months ago.
Do you feel like these are unfair questions of somebody within a department of that size and scope?
I think
you
have a particular thing you really want to talk about and you're asking me other questions, but I don't think it's unfair to ask me about the audit. It's absolutely the case that the United States military should be able to pass an audit, and we've got to be on that pathway to get there.
But
we can't even pass an audit.
Don't you think that does speak to the larger point that we're trying to get at, which is good journalism uncovers corruption? And
okay, good journalism does uncover corruption, but I'm not sure these two things are linked. An audit is not.
But they are.
Okay, so you need to explain to me, do you understand what an audit does and the degree to which it is linked to the question that you're asking?
I believe so.
Okay, go ahead. Give me your explanation.
This is the only man I'll ever glaze, is Jon Stewart.
No, I don't mind learning. So what I would suggest is that the audit that they have in the military doesn't really look at whether or not there's efficacy. It's just whether they got delivered the thing that they ordered. And
that is any audit. That is any audit. That is true.
But generally, those audits aren't $400 billion for Raytheon and $1.7 trillion for a plane that doesn't seem to be doing. Like, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse.
Listen, my understanding is an audit is you're seeing how much money you're spending on what things, and then we're seeing if those things are done properly. My wife's company gets audited regularly. It's part of the process. She works for an institution. She's a behavioral specialist, blah, blah, blah. But basically, government systems will come in and make sure that they're doing the right thing. That's pretty much what an audit is doing. Making sure that you're properly and effectively engaging with, whatever protocol that you got. Very basic thing. Yeah, you can draw me glazing, Jon Stewart, absolutely. This is a problem. There's this whole thing. Like, they're not getting what do we spend on, like, $1 trillion a year? And we don't even know what the breakdown.
Are not the same thing. So let's decompose these.
Please educate me on.
Sure. So an audit is exactly what you just described, which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit, or the fact that the DoD has not passed an audit, is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false, right there. So
what is
now it's a question of, it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is not the same as.
But you're not having that suggestive fraud.
Saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world, that's waste.
How is that waste?
Because you can't justify your spending.
I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it. That to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, this is not. Look, I'm not saying this is on you. and that you caused this. But I think it's a tough argument to make
sure
that
I didn't cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went, like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for.
Yeah, to me, there's no other explanation except you just don't want to have it accounted for. How is it that we've had a military since the inception of our country, and you can't give us a breakdown on what you're spending money on? You can't even justify it. And we're talking about sitting here and getting rid of, like, what the fuck? I don't even remember what the fuck we're talking about.
Zelensky a bully, and has stated that the U.S.
Oh, waste money for fucking sending it to Ukraine? Dude, what about, like, just on other aspects? Because, like, that's part of the budget, my understanding, is sending aid. But either way, what about every other aspect? You can't even get that in there.
And especially when they see...
You can watch the rest of it. I'll put the link in the description. But I just wanted to get that point across.
The US should reduce its military aid budget to Israel. Perhaps his best-known policy, though, is raising the minimum voting age from 18 to 25. A suggestion so
the only reason to do that is because the young people are voting Democrat.
radical that it would require repealing the 26th Amendment.
Hey, Hey, guys, what did he say in his last video? That he thinks the Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in history. Except when it comes to fucking voting, dude. Listen, if you want to raise the minimum voting age, I disagree with it. But you know what? Lower it too. Like, make a cap on it, I mean. Oh, you want to do 25? Good. 25 to 60. Boom. Done. In fact, I think a cap on voting age would even be better than a fucking minimum voting age of 25 instead of 18. Dude, 60-year-olds have no fucking investment in the existence of our country anymore. That's just it. You're clocking out 20 years at best. Your best is 20 years. I'll give you 65, or it should be frankly. You're not going to, like, you have no incentive to vote in a way that's positive for the next generation, really. I mean, you got grandkids, but yeah, there's a much higher chance of a 65-year-old being so fucking dumb and out of touch with what's going on in the world that they vote like an asshole. You're better off, like, capping the voting age at like 60 or 65 than you are raising it. We shouldn't do either, but if I'm going to choose one, it's capping that goddamn voting age more than anything else.
Under Ramaswamy's proposed amendment, Americans aged 18 to 24 could still vote, but only if they undertake 6 months of national service or if they pass.
I'd be into an idea of, like, some kind of mandatory service. Other countries do it. That'd be an interesting idea. I don't think it's terrible.
A civics test. It's not just his policies either.
Okay.
Ramaswamy has
I mean, here's the thing. If you pay taxes, you should be able to vote. That's like the #1 contributor as a person to voting, or to being able to vote. Maybe even 16-year-olds should be able to vote if they're working. I don't know. But people should just be able to vote. I don't think you should have to take a civics test. If you can't pass a specific test that you think makes people intelligent enough, then why the fuck... why the fuck are you trying to get rid of the Department of Education? That's just the stupidest thing. You're telling people that they're too dumb to vote, so you're taking away a Department of Education. What? Doesn't even make sense.
Also endured a series of controversies, which have further boosted his public profile. Before his campaign even began, he allegedly paid a Wikipedia editor to remove mentions of his involvement with the Ohio COVID response team, and remove the fact that he was a recipient of the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans in 2011.
What is that?
For context, Paul Soros is the older brother of George Soros, notable billionaire.
Oh yeah, conservatives love to talk about George Soros when it comes to pushing, like, Jewish, like, conspiracy theories.
And subject of numerous right-wing conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Ramaswamy has also stated that he believes that the federal government may have been involved in the January 6th riot, and flirted with the idea that federal agents may have hijacked planes on 9/11.
Okay. I find it crazy because when January 6th happened, there were police officers that had fucking PTSD, and conservatives were laughing at them as they expressed that on trial. It was incredible that it's like, oh, we stand with police until they disagree with us is wild.
I think it is legitimate to say how many federal agents were on the planes that hit the Twin Towers. Like, I think maybe the answer is 0, probably a 0 for all I know, right? No reason to think it was anything other than 0. But if we're doing a comprehensive assessment of what happened,
You think that they killed themselves on the? That's incredible. What a fucking idiot.
on 9/11, we have a 9/11 commission. Absolutely, that should be an answer the public knows the answer to.
Now, perhaps unsurprising.
I think, funny enough, I think South Park made this point. It's so crazy. But the conspiracy theory around 9/11, if they think it seems to centralize around, like, not wanting to believe and not being able to cope with our country being impacted in such a significant way by another country. Like, we're supposed to feel so permanent and so safe and so protected, and then we weren't. because we got attacked. And it's like, no, the government must have done that because there's no way. Like, we're infallible. We're the strongest country in the world. There's no way that could have happened unless we did it to ourselves. It seems like this incredible conspiracy cope.
Ramaswamy's policies and off-the-cuff remarks have attracted criticism from the so-called mainstream media. But his poll numbers among Republicans are surging. 538's poll aggregator currently has him on 10%, in third place behind Trump and DeSantis. But
bro, how is Pence so far down? Holy shit.
DeSantis' numbers are falling fast, while Ramaswamy's are rising. And a couple of the most recent polls even have him ahead. Ramaswamy also performed relatively well in last week's debate, where a plurality of Republicans said that he won, and he was reliably the most Googled candidate.
Yeah, and he's more intelligent from what I see. What I know of Donald Trump, dumb as shit. Chris Christie, dumb as shit. Ron DeSantis, dumb as shit. I don't really know Nikki Haley too well. So he's going to win these because he's just more charismatic and intelligent than these people. And frankly, if he goes up against Biden in a conversation, he's going to, I don't know, the guy has a chance because Biden can't fucking formulate a sentence anymore. So I don't think that he wins. And the only person that's like comparable to him would be Pete Buttigieg, which I kind of like the guy, but I'm not entirely sure that he would be able to beat this other guy. This other guy just seems more effective. He seems more aggressive, a bit more, not, I hate to say it, but masculine. Buttigieg is a gay white guy. And I'm not trying to say there's nothing wrong with being gay, but the problem is that when you look at what other people think about this, like, let me give you, for instance, I remember there's somebody I work with and they said that they didn't vote for Hillary because she was a woman. Not because they don't like women, it's because they think that the rest of the world would laugh at us. Well, personally, I don't care because you're still going to be taking fucking orders from a woman president. I don't care. But that's how people perceive women in the United States. Like, oh, we're not going to be taken seriously if we vote a woman in, which is stupid, but people still feel that way. And I feel like something similar is going to happen with Pete Buttigieg, especially from more big, moderate, conservative leaning people. Biden pulls in moderate conservatives. Pete Buttigieg, they're going to be like, oh, well, they're going to be like a little homophobic against the guy. It's nothing that it's not his fault, but absolutely, you know. And so I don't know, you know, if the guy does pull through, like Biden, I think wins against Trump easily, but with this other guy, he might be able to pull a fast one.
Could Ramaswamy really win the nomination? Well, as things stand, no, probably not. Trump is still the favorite by absolute miles, and unless something rules him out, he'll probably win it. In reality, Ramaswamy almost definitely knows this too, and he's probably really just vying to become Trump's vice presidential pick.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of these guys just try to get usually I think the protocol is like, hey, if you drop out, I'll make you secretary of ball sweat, you know. That makes sense. But why would Trump, I mean, it makes sense that he would want to cut Pence. Because Pence didn't go along with the fucking insane conspiracy theory that Trump lost the election, or that he actually wanted it was stolen from him, whatever dumb bullshit Trump was going to push. But I mean, I guess it makes sense because originally they paired Pence with Trump because Trump wasn't a politics guy, Pence was. So you get to like take that credibility. It's the same thing with Biden and Obama. Obama was like very new. You take Biden, you plug him in there. Hey, look at me. I got the new fresh face with the political experience. Trump might actually take this guy because he doesn't need to be perceived as having political experience because he has even though he doesn't, because he's dog shit. He's a bad president. I'll debate you on that, nerd. But this guy has got a young, charismatic face. He represents the future. He actually, I mean, I guess he could consider this guy. Or he can go with like a woman. So he can be like, look, I'm actually woke.
Or at least win a seat in Trump's cabinet. This would probably also explain why, despite nominally competing against him, Ramaswamy has been one of Trump's most vocal defenders. For context, Ramaswamy has said that he would pardon the former president if he was convicted of his various possible crimes.
Whoa.
And call President Trump.
All right. Gotta love presidents who do bad things and they get pardoned.
The best president of the 21st century during the debate. He's also generally refused to criticize him during his campaign, and their only real point of
disagreement, or else you're going to lose all your support because conservatives are fucking insane.
Disagreement seems to be over the Trans-Pacific Agreement, a US-led East Asian free trade deal first dreamt up by the Obama administration that Trump withdrew from in 2017. Now, this general alignment with Trump has made Ramaswamy popular with Trump supporters, and polling backs this up.
Or maybe he's just trying to sit there and say, like, if Trump is not going to be able to run, then I'll be able to pull all those voters. They'll default to me afterwards.
If Trump were to drop out of the race for some reason, then Ramaswamy would become the favorite for the nomination, picking up many Trump supporters' backing. You get the idea then. Ramaswamy probably knows that he's not going to beat Trump this time round, and he's probably just eyeing up a cabinet position or possibly laying the groundwork for a serious run in 2028 if Biden wins in 2024, where he would probably have a pretty good shot at competing against Vice President Kamala Harris, who isn't as popular as Biden. And to be fair, this probably makes sense.
I don't like
sense from Ramaswamy's perspective.
Because I don't like women. I'm just kidding.
Given the trajectory of the Republican Party and the fact that he's only 38, meaning that he could have a long and potentially very successful political career ahead of him. Now, following stories and doing independent journalism often requires a fair bit of travel. From attending the NATO summit in Lithuania or Munich Security Conference to exploring out.
Is this a plug for a thing?
That hard. What's consistently annoying though is the technology, because when you need to work from abroad or
oh yeah, it's a plug for like something. All right, yeah, NordVPN plug. You know, if you want to go check out the link in the description for this guy. Yeah, man, I was just interested in who this new guy is, so I'm happy I looked at that. Fucking crazy.